This is Dustin with Gashouse Radio, and you're watching the UTS Network.
Welcome to Under the Scope, a news magazine show geared towards telling stories you can't get anywhere else. Tonight, we go to South Jersey and the Gashouse Radio Studios to where the number one rated internet radio station is on the air. Tonight, it's their story.
I started playing guitar pretty early age, like 5th grade or something. Been in bands for a long time with many years with Jim, partner he was in Case of the Mondays with me. That was a band we did for a long time. He's my partner in Gashouse Radio. We were in that one particular band from, I want to say, like 2001 until about 2009. And when that kind of...
Dustin realized he didn't want to start over, but he wanted to stay in music. Now he had to figure out how to stay involved.
I saw an empty space in the Philadelphia market for supporting local music. Opportunity with internet radio. It's pretty obvious to me that all entertainment is moving to internet. A lot of my friends who are musicians or this and that, who I thought might be interested, a lot of people were just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. This doesn't make any sense to me.
Enter his former bandmate.
Jim was the one that was like, yeah, I think this will work. And both of us were big radio fans anyway. We enjoyed talk radio, we enjoyed a lot of podcasts.
Then he had to figure out how to do this.
We decided we'll start with a podcast. So that's once a week, and it'll be a live podcast where you can listen in live. So Gashouse Radio started as Tuesday nights, 8 to 10, once a week.
As 2010 went on, they realized they couldn't do it alone anymore, so they brought in Falter and Rob to help out.
Started planning out the shows a little bit more. And then once after a couple months, we got like a real structure of the show, which ended up being Gashouse Live. Then we started branching off, and we collected enough music. We started getting the licensing, so then we started doing 24/7. But yeah.
Now that brings us to Gashouse Live, Dustin and Jim's show, and they explain that it's not just all about music.
Independent music scene, but it also covers other things in the Philadelphia area. We have hosts outside of Philadelphia that kind of remotely broadcast for us, and so just interesting topics, and it all usually comes back to music anyway.
Though they have success, they have similar issues just like mainstream radio, and that is keeping an eye on what the listeners like.
I just want it to be interesting at all times. I just want the listeners to have something unique. We have something pretty... I haven't seen it, similar to Pandora, but I haven't seen it on any internet radio station where for every song we play, we have thumbs up and thumbs down buttons, which gives anonymous, instant feedback for every song that we play. And that all gets tallied in a spreadsheet. So we've been trying to figure out ways to use that information to create, like we created the Tournament of Champions, the 20 highest voted bands of last year. We put in like a bracket elimination type thing throughout the month of December, and then found a winner, which was Magnificent Birds of Prey. The year before that, it was a punk band out of England called Drag, and we're going to continue to do that every December, and that's what we do.
Now we've heard a little bit about the rise, but it leaves a question about how a small-time business could reach being number one, and it all starts with a name.
We started thinking about, all right, so in the 1920s, that's when people gathered around the radio. That's when radio was like at its prime. It was kind of before TV for the most part, and that was the source of entertainment. So we're like, all right, so let's start looking at the 20s stuff. Let's look at slang terms for the 20s, or from the 20s. And we came across Gashouse in the 20s meant like rough around the edges. And we were like, oh, well, that's perfect. That's what it's going to be.
Rough around the edges is really what they want, because to continue to be a success, they need to make sure that they separate themselves from traditional radio.
The difference with internet radio and FM radio, or terrestrial radio, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to FM radio, it's measured by listeners, period. And that's all that matters, and that's what the salesmen sell. We're trying to get people, and not just by we, I mean like internet radio stations that are trying to make this more, because we're not the only ones by far, is that it can be way more than that, especially nowadays. Like, if our listeners, if our listenership is low at some point, it doesn't matter because we also have YouTube hits happening. We have Facebook buzz going on. We have mentions on Twitter going crazy. We have our website traffic's going nuts. Like we're also a blog, an indie music blog. So the articles that we write are just as important. The traffic that's going to our website is just as important as the amount of listeners. So with internet radio, with the model that we've put together, it's not just about listeners. It's about a lot more. Just as we have multiple revenue streams, it's multiple avenues of reaching people. And it doesn't just have to be voice. It's all-encompassing. It's a lot more than just that.
Gashouse Radio is a truly remarkable story, and we plan to bring more stories about the internet radio station in the future. This concludes this edition of Under the Scope, and let's take a sneak peek of what's coming up next month.
It had that shock appeal, and I think a segment of society really liked that. Taking the art and the styles and the sport and taking...
We're going to start a series on mixed martial art fighting, and it begins with the popularity of this growing sport. From everybody at Under the Scope and the UTS Network, thanks for watching.